Chapter 31 The Sought-After Bodybuilding Pill. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. But there is no way, who makes these magical elixirs available only here, even with Kuminglang's family background. Before coming to Yunwu City, he had never heard of the existence of pills in this world. Seeing that Chilo didn't reply, Kuminglang had nothing to say. There are rare things to live in, and the boss is willful. Hey, boss, why is there only one bottle of this bodybuilding pill? What's the use of it? Kuminglang first went to the shelf to look at the pill. Now that the types of elixirs have increased, Chilo also specially asked the system to print the names of the elixirs on the outside of the small porcelain bottles. Otherwise, Chilo sometimes can't tell the difference just by looking at the appearance of the small porcelain bottle. The bodybuilding pill is used to enhance physical fitness. Chilo explained slowly. Physique, that's not as good as strength. Kuminglang thought it was another elixir with similar effects to Zio Yongli Dan. TSK, there are still 80 spiritual crystals for sale, boss, why don't you go grab it? Kuminglang said TSK in disgust, and decisively put the bodybuilding pill back on the shelf. It's gone, let's keep the spirit crystal and look at other pills. After hearing Chi Li's words, the other three also looked elsewhere. A bodybuilding pill can probably permanently enhance your physique by about 3 levels. Chilo added slowly, the description of the bodybuilding pill does not explain in detail what a very small amount of physical fitness means, but Chilo can ask the system for verification. The 3 levels of physique are the physical attributes that are enhanced by an average person's promotion to 3 minor levels. You must know that in this world, every time you upgrade, the enhanced attributes are basically fixed. Only when you enter the trial space and undergo a trial can you have the opportunity to obtain baptism, thereby additionally strengthening your own attributes and obtaining the seal of trial. However, this bodybuilding pill can actually directly enhance 3 levels of physical fitness. This completely breaks the iron law of this world. Bodybuilding pill, just one. The 4 people next to the shelf became tense in an instant. As the captain of this team, I feel that this bodybuilding pill should be given to me first. Kuminglang said without hesitation, forgetting his previous dislike and glaring. Bah, who just picked up the bodybuilding pill and put it back again? Since you don't want it, why are you arguing? A boy next to him immediately came out to make trouble. That's right, can the captain do whatever he wants? Besides, we are just a temporary freshman team. I am bound to get this bodybuilding pill. I hope you will give me some face. I'll give you a damn face. Who has been hiding behind me in the cloud forest? This bodybuilding pill has nothing to do with you. Huh. Come to think of it, we still have to compete. The 4 partners who came out of the cloud forest and the test of life and death did not hesitate to undermine each other for a bodybuilding pill. Fighting is prohibited in the store, and violators will be blacklisted. Chilo sat firmly behind the counter and reminded him aloud. The tense scene came to a standstill. Then, in this case, I will give you 100 spiritual crystals, and give me this elixir. Kuminglang picked up his money bag to show off his wealth. Who doesn't? We relied on the elixirs in the boss's shop to kill a few brave monsters. Don't you think it's worth it? Not to be outdone, another boy also took out his money bag. They all knew that the elixirs in Chi Li's store were expensive, so before coming here, they specially sold a few magic cores. That's right, I'll give you 120 spiritual crystals, and give me the bodybuilding pill. 130. Chapter 32 More Than One. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. Chilo looked at the scene that was about to turn into an auction, and his heart was filled with joy. This extra income should be used as additional income, and there is no need to share it with the system. Host, please put aside your petty thoughts. Your level does not allow you to set your own price at the moment. Excellent level elixirs can only be sold for 80 spiritual crystals. Puff. The basin of cold water poured down almost made Chilo spit out a mouthful of old blood. Boss, tell me, who are you selling this bodybuilding pill to? All 4 people took out their money bags and then looked at Chilo. They argued for a long time without any result, so they simply let Chilo decide, or the highest bidder gets it. It's useless for you to look at me. I'm not a black shop here. If I say 80 spiritual crystals, I mean 80 spiritual crystals. I won't charge more. When Chilo said this, his heart was bleeding. When did this stingy boss become so principled? Kuminglang's eyes widened and he looked at the other three in horror. The three people also looked at each other. If the effectiveness of the bodybuilding pill is not exaggerated, 80 spirit crystals are definitely a bargain, not to mention 80 spirit crystals. Even if it was 280 spirit crystals, Kuminglang and the others would grit their teeth and take them out. This kind of elixir that can permanently increase attributes is definitely the only one. If you miss it, there will be no place to cry. Besides, there is no need for you to fight. There is more than just one bodybuilding pill. In Chi Li's slow words, he revealed a piece of news that made Kuminglang and the others' hearts beat wildly. This kind of elixir that permanently increases attributes actually exists. Brothers, how about giving this pill to me first? Kuminglang swallowed and then asked the other three. Okay, there is still time for the freshman trial anyway. We can continue to hunt monsters in the cloud forest. The three of them looked at each other, gritted their teeth, and nodded. Thank you. Kuminglang immediately took down the small porcelain bottle containing the bodybuilding pill, then went to the counter and put down 80 spiritual crystals. At that speed, it was as if he was afraid that Chilo would regret it. Listening to what you said, do you still want to continue hunting monsters in the cloud forest? Chilo put the spirit crystals into the cash box and then asked aloud. Of course, otherwise how will we get our outstanding freshman? Kuminglang returned. Then I suggest you take a look at the weapons on the other shelf, which may be helpful to you. Chilo recommended, because Chilo discovered that they seemed quite confident in their weapons. Everyone who comes to the store first looks at the elixir. Weapon. Kuminglang lowered his head and glanced at the long knife at his waist. It was indeed somewhat damaged. Originally, they planned to go to the weapon shop to update their weapons after buying the elixirs, and then continue to hunt World of Warcraft. The strength of the skin, flesh and bones of a brave level monster is very high. Even the weapons they asked the master to forge could no longer hold up under the high intensity of wear and tear these days. Then let's see. Out of his trust in Chila's elixir, Kuminglang felt that it didn't matter if he took a look at the weapon. A handful of 10 spiritual crystals doesn't seem too expensive. Kuminglang carefully observed the weapons on the shelf. There are sabers, knight swords, and staffs. They asked blacksmith masters to forge weapons, and the price also ranged from a few spiritual crystals to a dozen spiritual crystals. 10 spiritual crystals are probably an average price. Chapter 33 Boss, you started opening a black shop again. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. Just when Kuminglang was about to reach out and take down a sword, the hand he stretched out suddenly froze. 200 spiritual crystals. Boss, are you back to your old business? What? Chilo put his hands on the counter, squinting his eyes slightly, expressionless. It's a black shop. Kuminglang's tone of voice was a little different. A mere weapon was actually sold for 200 spirit crystals. This is a price that only those magic wands blessed with powerful magic beads can be sold for, and those powerful staffs are all rare treasures. And you also need to have powerful magic power to control those staffs. You must know that although the master of the artifact is chosen, but his own strength is too poor, he will still be swallowed by the artifact. Just try and you will find out. Chilo spread his hands and signaled Kuminglang to take his favorite weapon off the shelf. Systemically arranged shelves are not just used to store goods, more important lockdown. Just like the power of an elixir, it will not fade away when it is placed on the shelf. The power of the weapon will not be released when it is placed on the shelf. Otherwise, the thin dragon power that naturally exudes from the dragon-marked giant axe that Chilo drew a few days ago would scare many people away from entering the store. You don't know how to buy or sell by force. Kuminglang glanced at Chilo suspiciously, but he still obeyed and took down the flaming saber that he liked from the shelf. As soon as Kuminglang took the flaming saber in hand, he felt a hot breath passing from the handle to the palm of his hand, but it's surprisingly not hot. What is this? Kuminglang was horrified, looking at the flaming sword in his hand with amazement. This fiery breath seems to have a feeling of flame magic. But if you feel it carefully, It's not the case, however. In Kuminglang's heart, he could feel some information, that is, the effect of this flaming saber. How do you feel about the flaming sword with the burning effect? Qi Lu slowly explained the capabilities of this weapon, with a tone as calm as saying, this is a piece of iron. Shwa! Bear! Kuminglang suddenly drew his sword out of its sheath, and the flaming sword slashed through the air, flashing with scorching light. The temperature of the air in the store also rose sharply the moment the flaming sword was unsheathed. Good knife! Kuminglang's eyes were completely attracted by the flaming saber in his hand. He found that the weapons he had used before were just garbage compared with this flaming saber. No, not even as good as trash. To forge this Zanma sword, you need at least one fire magic core. However, this skill of using magic core to enchant weapons has long been discontinued. About 2,000 years ago, weapon enchanters were no longer found. After all, using magic core to forge weapons is not a staff. When a magician uses a magic wand, he can use his own magic power to stimulate the power of the magic core to increase the power of his own magic. However, the weapons used by warriors and the use of fighting spirit cannot activate the power of the magic core. Therefore, using magic core to forge weapons is more to enhance the performance of weapons, or to imitate magic wands to store magic, but doing so is basically not worth the gain. However, the weapons sold in this store actually have the power of the magic core added to the weapons after activation. This is simply impossible. Chapter 34. The weapons in the black shop are valuable. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. Even more incredible than the legendary weapon enchantment, this is equivalent to not storing the magic condensed by the magician in the magic bead, but carrying it on the weapon, and ensuring that the magic does not expire. This is completely contrary to the theory of magic. I have to say that this small shop always breaks the rules and surprises people. Just 200 spiritual crystals. After buying the bodybuilding pill, although Kuminglang didn't have so many spiritual crystals anymore, but he still has to say, a mere 200 spirit crystals are really worth it. Three brothers, you. Kuminglang turned around and was about to ask the other three people to borrow money to buy this flaming sword. However, when he turned around, he saw the three guys staring at the weapons in his hands. After the flaming saber was taken off the shelf, the aura it exuded had already attracted the attention of the three people. This incredible weapon, in their eyes, is not only shocking, but also shocking. Three brothers. Kuminglang waved his hand in front of the three of them. Purchase. The three of them spoke in unison, and one could even see the blazing fire in their eyes. The meaning of the flame is to go to the cloud forest to hunt monsters, earn spiritual crystals, and then go to this shop to buy weapons. This flaming sword is the first, but it is definitely not the last. The word brought Kuminglang to tears. The four of them gathered all the spiritual crystals together, and then took away a total of 4 weapons, 1 flaming slicing sword, 2 sharp slicing swords, and 1 sharp knight's sword, a total of 230 spiritual crystals, because they really didn't have enough money to buy a second high-quality weapon. Otherwise, they would have to buy the ice crystal knight sword. Thank you for your patronage and welcome to come again next time. Qi Lu put all the spiritual crystals into the cash box. This time, there were 310 spiritual crystals. After deducting the system's share, Qi Lu was left with 15 spiritual crystals and 50 gold coins. Looking at their appearance, I should be able to buy more weapons. Qi Lu rubbed his chin. Currently, only weapons and elixirs are available in the store, but in reality, there are only ordinary elixirs for the time being, and the number of high-quality elixirs is too small. It's not a good idea to just rely on 10 consecutive draws to obtain high-quality elixirs. But, wait, Qi Lu suddenly thought of a question. If you draw 10 times in a row, you will definitely get a higher-level product, but the difference in draw fees between the ordinary weapon egg pool and the high-level weapon egg pool is 50 times. That is to say, I can definitely. But at times like this, there will always be a voice that pours cold water on Qi Lu. System, host, the extraction fee for the ordinary level egg pool is only a novice benefit given to the host by the system. After the novice period ends, it will return to the normal fee. What do you mean? Qi Lu has long been accustomed to the system suddenly popping up a sentence. System, ordinary level egg pool, normal fee, 1 draw for 10 gold coins. I knew how it was possible to leave such a big loophole for me. Chi Lo laughed twice. Chi Lo could almost guess the general reason. That's the amount of the share. The amount of the first-level store manager's share is really pitiful, so there are novice benefits, and more importantly, although ordinary-level weapons are better in craftsmanship than those made by master blacksmiths, they actually have no particularly outstanding effects, but excellent weapons are different. Chapter 35 There is no blacksmith master here. You are listening at NovelsMyriad.audio. Forget it, recharge me 50 gold coins first, I want 50 consecutive draws, ordinary weapon egg pool. Since it is a novice benefit, if you don't enjoy it, you don't enjoy it. System, as a friendly reminder, the warehouse capacity is limited, so please do your best. Puff. Chi Lo held back a mouthful of blood from his chest and said, then let's do 20 consecutive strokes first. This time the system said nothing. In addition to ordinary weapons, this time it is an excellent weapon, the Furious Sword, the Swift Sword, Furious Great Sword, a small increase in the user's attack power, with passive skills. The more you fight, the braver you become. In the same battle, the longer the battle lasts, the higher the attack power will be. This effect will be cleared after the battle. Swift Wind Long Knife, a small amount of the user's destructive power is increased, along with the power of the blast, increasing the user's speed in battle. The Great Sword of Fury, this is already a rare weapon. Chi Lo was also a little surprised when he looked at this passive skill, including those ordinary weapons, placed on the shelves. It will basically fill up a shelf. Chi Lo also made up his mind not to stock weapons for the time being. After all, as a store manager, the key is to sell goods, otherwise, taking advantage of this is of no use. Just after Chi Lo put the last weapon on the shelf, a boy who seemed to be looking for something suddenly came outside the store. Then after seeing Chi Lo, a small and unconventional shop, he hesitated for a moment before opening the door and walking in. The forging master of Cloud Mist City is in this shop? The boy asked. What? Chi Lo suddenly had a question mark. This small shop doesn't look like a blacksmith's shop. Why do you want a blacksmith to come to my place? I am the manager of this store. If you are looking for a forging master, there is no one here. Chi Lo thought for a long time and finally said something. Store manager. Store manager too. The boy was stunned for a moment, confirmed the information in his mind, and then nodded. Hello, store manager, my name is Chi Yongqiu. I was introduced here by Ying Feng. Although Chi Yongqiu didn't understand why when Ying Feng told him about this store, he repeatedly emphasized that he introduced it, but he did as he was told. Ying Feng, oh, those two siblings, what do you need? Chi Lo thought for a while before remembering who they were. I need weapons. Powerful weapons. Chi Yongqiu said firmly. He firmly believed that the reason why he lost to Ying Feng was because of his weapons. He never felt that it was because his martial arts skills were not good enough. The weapons are over there, take a look for yourself. Chi Lo pointed to the shelves where the weapons were placed. Chi Yongqiu immediately walked to the shelves. 200 spiritual crystals. Although Ying Feng had already told him that the weapons in this shop were very expensive, but Chi Yongqiu never thought that it could be so expensive. 200 spiritual crystals are enough for me to practice for a whole semester, and there is still some left. Store manager, don't you think your weapons are too expensive? Chi Yongqiu couldn't help but say. Even if I ask those famous forging masters to tailor a weapon for me, it only costs 20 spiritual crystals. The weapons in your shop are actually 10 times more expensive. My products are always worth the money. Chi Lo glanced at Chi Yongqiu and slowly uttered a sentence. Chapter 36 4,000 spiritual crystals are really worth it. You are listening at NovelsMyriad.audio. Value for money. What kind of knight's sword is worth 200 spiritual crystals? Chi Yongqiu looked dismissive, then he looked around the shelves again, until he saw the dragon-marked giant axe. His eyes suddenly widened. 4,000. This store manager is really poor and crazy. Chi Yongqiu shook his head. He no longer wanted to reason with Chi Lo, but silently took down a sharp knight's sword from the shelf. Cheng Hui, 10 spiritual crystals. Chi Lo glanced at the knight's sword in Chi Yongqiu's hand and said. Chi Yongqiu carefully looked at the knight's sword in his hand. He could feel that this was the knight's sword that Ing Fom was using at that time. These 10 spiritual crystal knight swords are worth the money. Chi Yongqiu nodded with satisfaction, then replaced his original knight sword and pinned the sharp knight sword to his waist. "Boss, I'm here again." While Chi Yongqiu was admiring his new weapon, a loud voice came from outside the door. Tokari laughed and walked in from outside the store. Judging from his appearance, he should have made another achievement in the cloud forest. "Here it comes, your heavy weapon has arrived." Chi Lu raised his eyes and said lightly. "Really, the boss is interested." Hu Shou rubbed his hands and walked to the shelves with weapons. "There is only one heavy weapon at present. 4,000 spiritual crystals. Boss, you really think highly of me." Hu Shou glanced at the price tag of the dragon-marked giant axe and almost spit out a mouthful of blood. He finally held it back and smiled bitterly. "Do you think so too? This store manager is really crazy about spiritual crystals. What kind of weapon is worth 4,000 spiritual crystals?" Chi Yongqiu immediately agreed when he heard someone had the same opinion as him. "You know, the reason why a staff is more expensive than a weapon is because the staff can be used for a long time, and strengthening the power of magic will not deplete the power of the staff. When a magician changes his staff, it is more often because he has a better staff to choose from rather than because his own staff cannot be used. As for melee weapons, if they are always in battle, the loss rate is very high. If the elixir is a one-time consumable, then the weapon is considered a multiple-time consumable. Spending 4,000 spiritual crystals to buy a weapon is really too extravagant. You can take it out and have a look." Chi Lu had a good impression of Hu Shou, because when Tai Lang came to make trouble before, Hu Shou came to help without saying anything. "Okay, then I'll give it a try." Hu Shou was not pretentious, and immediately reached out and took the dragon-marked giant axe off the shelf. Roar! That the effect of the shelf's blocking aura disappeared from the dragon-marked axe. A terrifying dragon power suddenly emanated from the dragon-marked axe, filling the shop. At the same time, a dragon's roar suddenly appeared in the ears of everyone in the store. The strong sense of oppression almost made Hu Shou throw away the dragon-marked giant axe in his hand, the giant axe that was originally plain and simple. After leaving the shelf, stripes continued to emerge, and dragon patterns were quickly formed, extremely majestic. "Dragon, it's actually Long Wei. What kind of material was this giant axe of yours made of?" Hu Shou's hands holding the dragon-marked giant axe were trembling. This is still a level 36 warrior. Looking at Chi Yongqiu standing aside, he felt a little weak just standing in the realm of this dragon's power, not to mention wielding this giant axe. Chapter 37 Goods sold are non-returnable and non-returnable. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. No wonder the system limits the user level. Chi Lu looked at the dragon-marked giant axe and nodded secretly. The goods produced by the system have no usage restrictions for Chila. Just like the might of the dragon-marked giant axe, it would not oppress Chi Lu, but for others, it's different. At least, this brave level is the minimum usage limit for the dragon-marked giant axe. It's just a giant axe, but it can actually carry dragon power. No wonder it's sold for 4,000 spiritual crystals. Hu Shou stared at the giant axe in his hand, with an extremely longing look in his eyes. But this price is really too expensive. Well worth it though. Chi Yongqiu, who was standing aside, was even more horrified. Looking at the giant axe, he had a lot of thoughts in his heart. So what the store manager said about value for money, wasn't it just empty talk? With this mood, Chi Yongqiu quickly reached out and took down the ice crystal knight sword he saw before from the shelf. Suddenly, an unknown force poured into Chi Yongqiu's body from the knight's sword. Chi Yongqiu could clearly feel that this unknown force had greatly improved his defense. With the blessing of this power, Chi Yongqiu is confident that he can withstand non-strength warrior-level monsters head-on without getting hurt. How can this be? Chi Yongqiu felt that everything he had seen and learned in the past 10 years had been overturned, but the facts are right in front of you, and you can't help but not believe it. Chi Yongqiu suddenly thought of what he had said before, and suddenly felt a burning pain on his face. He just wanted to find a crack in the ground and burrow down. He was obviously sitting in a well watching the sky, but he said that the store manager was crazy about Ling Jing. "Boss, although I want this giant axe very much, I really don't have so many spiritual crystals." Husho smashed his mouth twice and reluctantly put the dragon-marked giant axe back on the shelf. Husho's words also woke up Chi Yongqiu. With this night sword, I can go to the cloud forest to hunt monsters. Chi Yongqiu suddenly thought in his heart, and then immediately walked to the counter and took out his wallet, the last 200 spirit crystals. This time Chi Yongqiu came to Brilliant Academy, he only brought so many spiritual crystals with him, and now they have all been donated to this small shop. Manager, look at this night sword. Chi Lu slowly put the 200 spirit crystals into the collection box, then glanced at Chi Yongqiu and said, the goods are sold and will not be returned or exchanged. What? Chi Yongqiu was stunned for a moment. The night sword from before cannot be retreated. Chi Lu paused and then explained. It doesn't matter, I just use them interchangeably. Chi Yongqiu fastened both night swords to his waist and said through gritted teeth. That's good. Thank you for your patronage. Welcome to come again next time. Chi Lu watched Chi Yongqiu walk out of the store and said slowly. Boss, do you have any other heavy weapons here? Husho patted the giant axe behind him and saw that there were already many gaps on the axe blade. The giant axe is gone for now, but there is a big sword. I don't know if you can get used to it. Chi Lu recommended, the Furious Greatsword is a two-handed heavy sword type weapon. When necessary, it can also be used as a half-shield. It is a half-attack and half-defense weapon, although not as good as the giant axe. It is a purely violent weapon, but in terms of weight alone, it is indeed on the same level as the giant axe. A big sword will do, too. Although it's a bit unaccustomed to use it, you just need to press your hand. Husho nodded. For a powerful warrior like him, the weight of the weapon is definitely the first consideration. Chapter 38 Warcraft Changes. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. Following Chi Li's direction, Husho took down the Fury Sword from the shelf. The manic aura suddenly emanated from the Furious Sword. In just a moment, it was as if the blood in Husho's body was ignited, causing Husho to surge up with endless fighting spirit. What a great sword! Just by holding it in my hand, I can feel the fighting spirit of this big sword. Husho looked at the Furious Sword in surprise, fighting spirit surging in his chest and blood boiling in his body. The Furious Great Sword, Chenghui, 200 spiritual crystals. Chi Lu said slowly. Okay. Husho shouted, and then he neatly took out 300 spiritual crystals. I'll pick some more pills. These days, there are more and more brave-level monsters in the Cloud Forest. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to spend so much spiritual crystals. Husho put the Furious Sword back on his back, then went to the shelf on the other side and selected 10 ordinary-level elixirs. By the way, boss, you are here to collect magic cores, right? Husho seemed to have suddenly thought of this matter. I won't accept it, but it can be used to mortgage the spiritual crystals, the brave-level magic core, and 100 spiritual crystals. Chi Lu explained the problem seriously. Because of that stingy system, it would definitely not spit out the spiritual crystals it swallowed. At that time, it will be Chi Lu himself who will lose. That's almost it. Husho smiled, then put the elixir away and left the shop. Are there more and more brave-level monsters in the Cloud Forest? It seems like something is going to happen. Chi Lu looked in the direction outside the Cloud City. There is a continuous forest, that is the Cloud Forest. This time, the strange movements of the magical beasts in the Cloud Mist Forest have alarmed the Mercenary Union and the Lord of the Cloud Mist City. The Cloud Forest is famous for its abundance of low-level monsters. On the outskirts of the forest, there are basically monsters below level 20, and even brave-level monsters are rare. Many powerful mercenaries will go deep into the forest to hunt, but recently, many brave-level monsters have appeared outside the Cloud Forest, in the depths of the Cloud Forest. According to some mercenaries who were lucky enough to escape, professional-class monsters have begun to appear, and they tend to move to the outskirts of the Cloud Forest. Therefore, the Lord of Cloud Mist City and the Mercenary Union jointly issued the mission of Warcraft Change. The high bounties and mercenary points attracted a large number of mercenary teams. However, the bloody lessons also allowed many mercenary teams with insufficient strength to understand the situation clearly. This time the World of Warcraft mission is very dangerous. A mercenary team was slowly exploring from the edge of the cloud forest to the depths of the forest. There are only 7 people in this mercenary team, and all of them are women. The leader is a beautiful mercenary named Lanyi. The 7 of them are also very famous in Cloud Mist City. They are nicknamed the 7 Beauties by other mercenary teams in the Mercenary Union, but this is definitely not a joke, but a recognition of their strength. Sister Xiaoya, why are the mercenary points so high in this World of Warcraft mission? A girl holding a staff lay on the grass and asked Lanyi beside her. It's simple, because it's dangerous. Before Lanyi could speak, another short-haired girl answered first. Fei Xue is right, the Mercenary Union has never been one to give us an advantage. Yojo, who was hiding in the dark, echoed. Chapter 39 Upgrade Task. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. Okay, be quiet, don't scare the snake. Lanyi lay on the grass and looked into the forest ahead. The girl Xiaoya stuck out her tongue. At this time, a fit girl jumped down from the tree and put the arrow in her hand back into the quiver behind her. Xiao Qing, have you discovered anything? Lanyi asked. No monsters have been found yet, you can continue moving forward. Lan Qing'er put the long bow in her hand behind her shoulder. Call those 2 guys over. Lanyi nodded. Yojo, who was hiding in the darkness, quietly went to the rear. Soon, a little girl wearing heavy armor and carrying a tower shield, and a little loli holding a staff rushed over from behind. Is dinner ready? The little girl Lan Zier asked. Have you discovered the World of Warcraft? Asked little loli Nalan Chinchi. Keep moving forward. Lanyi said with a black line on his head. The strength of their Lanyi team can be said to be one of the best in the entire Yunhua city. The strength of the team members is absolutely guaranteed, but when it comes to doing things, it's not that reliable, and there are many such mercenary teams in the Cloud Forest, and they are all ranked mercenary teams in the Mercenary Union of Cloud Mist City system. Congratulations on the host sales reaching the target. The upgrade task has started. The sudden voice in his mind interrupted Qi Li's gaze and made him look away from the door. Upgrade. Qi Li gets excited when it comes to upgrading. What does upgrading mean? More profit sharing, more purchasing channels, and maybe more store construction. Tell me, what is the upgrade mission? Qi Li held his head high, as if he was about to accept some glorious call. System. The upgrade task is being generated completed. System, upgrade mission. As a store manager, you must not be a weak chicken waiting to die. What the hell kind of mission is this? When Qi Litsai heard the name, he almost cursed, but luckily he held it back in time. Otherwise, I don't know how the system would mess with him. System, task content. Please pass the test in the trial room, obtain the seal of the brave, and go to the Cloud Forest to collect enough materials to synthesize an item. System, rewards for completing the mission. The store manager level will be improved by 1 level, the trial room level will be improved by 1 level, the high-quality elixir egg pool will be opened, and the combat power improvement training room will be opened, with additional rewards. System, tip, the system will issue additional rewards based on the value of the item synthesized by the host. After listening to the system's requirements, Qi Li couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Can't you just be a store manager? Why do you have to fight? And what is this combat power improvement training room? As soon as you hear the name, you can tell that it is definitely not something that can be sold. System, I am only level 16 now, can I enter the trial room? Qi Li has long lost the excitement he had just now. System, don't worry, host. After passing the trial, your level will be raised to level 30. So good. Qi Li began to wonder if there were any pitfalls waiting for him. However, the system seemed to be able to hear Qi Li's thoughts. System, part of the spiritual crystals obtained by the system will be provided to the host when the host store manager level is upgraded, as energy for upgrading the level. Qi Li was slightly startled. It turns out that the system has been greedy for so many spiritual crystals, and there is no feedback. Chapter 40 The Man in the Trial Space. You are listening at NovelsMyriad. Thinking of this, Chi Lo couldn't help but burst into tears. Then he closed the store door neatly and walked to the magic circle in the trial room. The magic circle that had never been opened was flashing with a faint light at the moment, and then a dark black hole appeared in the center of the magic circle. Chi Lo took a deep breath and stepped into the black hole. The trial room is opened, and the brave level trial space is being generated. In the darkness, a white light suddenly appeared in front of Chi Lo, illuminating the trial space. In this trial space, stood a man wearing a robe and holding a thin sword. This man has a well-proportioned and slender figure and an ordinary face, but those eyes were shining with a dangerous light. System, only by defeating the person in front of you can you pass the trial. At the same time as the sound rang out, 2 weapon racks appeared next to Chi Lo, 2 full rows of weapons, including almost all types of cold weapons. Although Chi Lo doesn't know what other people's trial spaces are like, however, it shouldn't be as simple as myself. It's just an ordinary person. This is too simple. Chi Lo could feel that the man in front of him had no energy fluctuations in his body, there is no fighting spirit and no magic power. In other words, this man is an ordinary person. Chan. Chi Lo pulled out a long sword from the weapon rack, imitating the appearance of those dashing swordsmen in his memory, and pointed at the man in front of him from a distance. Come on, you're welcome. System, friendly reminder, although the host will not die in the trial space, it will be very painful. What? The sudden sound of the prompt made Chi Lo slightly startled, then he saw a sword light suddenly appear in front of his eyes. Immediately afterwards, Chi Lo felt a chill on his neck, and his eyes suddenly turned into darkness. When he woke up again, Chi Lo seemed to be back to the scene when he first entered the trial space. The man standing in front of him was still the ordinary-looking man. No way, was I killed by this guy just now? Chi Lo looked horrified. The thin sword in the man's hand was still pointing diagonally at the ground, and his sharp sword-like eyes were staring at Chi Lo seemingly casually. In fact, that dangerous light is like a sharp sword. Gudong. Chi Lo swallowed, then reached out and pulled out a long sword from the weapon rack, and looked at the man in front of him seriously. Sure enough, the tasks issued by the system could not be so simple. Don't be nervous. My attributes are higher than his, and my physical fitness is better than his. Chi Lo gripped the sword tightly, stepped forward with his feet and stepped forward to meet him. If you shoot slowly, you will lose half. Chi Lo knew that although his level was only level 16, he was much stronger than the man in front of him who only had the physical fitness of an ordinary person. However, this thought only lasted a few seconds, then an oncoming sword light sent Chi Lo back to the rebirth point again. No, use another weapon. The moment the light returned to Chi Li's eyes, he immediately stretched out his hand, pulled out a spear, and then thrust it forward, 1 inch long, 1 inch strong. Shwa. Another dazzling sword light flew out along with a smear of blood on Chi Li's neck. The spear was swung away by the rapier in the man's hand and stuck on the ground. The light at the rebirth point lit up again. Chi Lo whipped out a giant axe, swung it with a whistling wind, and struck at the man in front of him.